Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So today we're going to be talking about the Grand Arena, the upcoming new limited time mode that is themed around the Fantastic Four, launching later this season on July 24th. Understandably, new modes are a pretty hot topic in the community after the high voltage overdrive fiasco last month. So I wanted to talk a bit about everything we know about this new mode, what we can expect, and probably most importantly, how free-to-play friendly or not it's going to be based off the information we have so far. A lot of this stuff comes from data mines, so it might be slightly incomplete information, and I'll be doing a follow-up on this mode when we have more concrete information closer to its launch, but we have enough information where I thought it was at least worth bringing up and talking about a bit, if nothing else to hopefully set expectations of what you can expect out of this mode given what we know now. I'm also going to be doing a giveaway for a PAX bundle code, so if you want a chance at winning one of those, stay tuned to the end of the video to learn how you can enter that. But before we dive into the Grand Arena, I want to take a minute to talk to you about the sponsor of today's video. This video is sponsored by Fist Out, a mobile game that throws you into the heart of a magical arena where fists fly, spells ignite, and only the most cunning sorcerers and brawlers survive. Fist Out is a breath of fresh air. It's a strategic CCG brawler where you can collect over 300 unique cards and spells to wage war against your opponents. Collect and upgrade weapons and treasures to enhance your heroes to the heights of their power. With a roster of options that is constantly expanding, there are so many ways to mix and match heroes and spells that the possibilities seem endless. The game is both PvE Trials and a PvP Stellar War Arena, so there is something for everyone to enjoy, regardless of your preferred way to play. Will you dominate the Trials, or ascend to the top of the Stellar War Arena leaderboards to earn monthly rewards? The choice is yours. Level up your gear and characters in a fully fleshed out progression system that rewards skill and creativity. Whether you're a casual player or a hardcore strategist, there's always a path available for you. With its self-adjusting balance system, updates are frequently making sure that no one strategy remains overly dominant to keep the playing field level, diverse, and most importantly fun. Best of all, by using the QR code on screen or the link in the description, you can get a free starter gift pack worth $20 to help kick off your journey. So what are you waiting for? Download Fist Out today on iOS or Android and punch your way to victory. Thanks again to Fist Out for sponsoring today's video. So what exactly is the Champions Arena? It's going to be the new limited time game mode this month, and it looks pretty different than any of the other game modes we've had before. Probably the thing that is most notably different about it is the fact that this is the first mode that is going to be including its own pre-constructed decks. And as someone who's always been a bit of an advocate for trying to give new or returning players a bit of an easier on-ramp, I think giving players the option of pre-constructed decks is a really big boon for the mode. As much as I like putting together my own decks and deck building and all that stuff, there are a lot of people who don't like doing that stuff. And they probably don't like doing that stuff even more if they're missing important cards that make it harder to build decks. This is something that's fixed very easily with pre-constructed decks. And while we don't know the super specifics about how this game mode is going to function in terms of winning or losing, I imagine it will in some way have its own unique twist on that element. What we do know is you are going to be building your deck or choosing a pre-constructed deck based around one of these Fantastic Four characters, or Carnage, who is in here for some reason too. Each of these characters has also been granted a new skill card. I imagine they're going to be putting this in your hand when you play them, or maybe you just start the game with it. It's not super clear right now, but what we do know is depending on which character you choose, you'll have access to their unique skill cards. The one we can see on screen here is the Council of Reeds for Mr. Fantastic, which is 2 energy and has on reveal, give an ongoing card in your hand, -1 cost and +1 power. After you play it, repeat this ability. So if you've ever played something like Magic the Gathering and have heard of the Commander format, where you build your whole deck around one key legendary card, this feels like it's going for a similar kind of thing, where you're building your whole deck around this iconic hero, and you're trying to maximize the value you get out of both his regular card and this newly given skill. If you are an enjoyer of all things deck building, don't worry, you can still make your own custom decks in this mode, but I really like the fact that pre-constructed decks are an option here, as it massively lowers the barrier to entry for the average player, and especially so for a new or returning player. One of the other things we know about this mode is it is going to be using a ticket system, much like Sanctum Showdown. These ticket systems are always a little controversial and can't really do the math on it until we have some more concrete information on the numbers. But generally speaking, I think Sanctum has done a pretty alright job giving enough free resources to where players can engage with the mode quite a bit. You might also notice there is an event pass. We have no idea what that is. We don't know if that's going to be an extra paid thing with either money or gold. We don't know if that's just different branding for a rewards track. There is a shop as well, like we've seen in the other modes. We don't know what that looks like yet either. And I imagine we'll get some more concrete details about this stuff closer to launch. Right now, there's not really much info in the data mines about this stuff. Anything you're hearing about it is probably pure speculation. We did get a comment about this mode from the developers, though, that I wanted to bring up because I think it's pretty important. This came in the wake of the new season launch, where people weren't the happiest about the new Fantasticar card being locked behind the Super Premium Season Pass. Question asked, what happened to the feedback response being that you will communicate event expectations? Seems weird to me that immediately after the Kid Omega stuff, and the only official thing Second Dinner said in response about it is that they would tell us about spending early, and now you won't tell us whether or not Grand Arena will cost money or have a paid component right away. Basically, every time a corporate spokesperson doesn't directly say, no, the bad thing won't happen, and instead says, stay tuned, that is usually 99% to mean, yes, the bad thing will happen. So it just seems like you're setting yourself up for another disastrous community meltdown by not being upfront like you used to be in the past. And the response was as follows. We've committed to communicating more ahead of time, and we're still committed to that. The event is still 3 weeks away. As we stated, we'll continue to iterate when it comes to limited time modes and how we structure the rewards. I'm chatting a lot with the team about Grand Arena, and I look forward to letting you all know more about it as we get closer to launch on July 24th. As concerns are at a high right now in regards to reward costs, I'll share this. Getting one of the 2 new cards will take a free-to-play player around 12 games a day at a 50% win rate. And getting both of the new cards will take a free-to-play player around 31 games a day at a 50% win rate. These numbers may change slightly before launch. So there's something I find a little funny about this response, right? So it's good that they are setting kind of the expectation of, all right, if you want to get these 2 new event cards free to play, this is what it will require of you. Here's the thing though. If we put aside time and, all right, maybe I don't want to play 12 games or 31 games or whatever. Let's say you're willing to do what it takes to do to get these things free to play. Can a free to play player play 31 games a day? Obviously, we won't know this for sure until we get all the hard numbers and more information about the mode. But just looking at the information we have right now and seeing the countdown timer getting you 3 new tickets. In the other modes, that countdown timer was refreshing every 8 hours. So I don't think it's a off-base assumption to say, okay, you're going to be getting, let's say, 9 tickets a day. And maybe they'll have some other tickets through other means. Maybe they'll throw a bunch at you at the start. Maybe there'll be a rewards track like in Sanctum, where once you progress more, you get more tickets. I imagine there's going to be some other way of getting tickets in this mode, rather than waiting for them to regen or presumably buying more of them with gold. That said, I personally really doubt they're going to be giving you enough tickets to where someone can be playing 31 games a day. Again, it'll be less if you have above a 50% win rate, which I don't think is the hardest thing to do in these modes, especially since there are bots in them, if it's anything like the previous modes we've had in the past. But even so, it seems like the amount you're going to need to play this mode in order to get both of the cards seems like it has a good chance of being higher than the amount of tickets they actually provide for you. So it seems a little silly to me to respond to this question about, hey, we just want this direct communication about what to expect. And they're like, well, this is what it will take, but they're giving us these numbers very out of context. They're saying, look, it is attainable for a free-to-play player. All you have to do is play 31 games a day at a 50% win rate. When by its nature, the structure of this mode with the ticket system, I think it is very unlikely that that is what the average player is actually going to be able to do in terms of the amount of times they can play this mode in a given day. Since we don't have all the hard numbers, I'm not going to harp on this too much. I just wanted to bring it up because I think this is a classic example of them setting an expectation a little bit earlier on that when we get more information, isn't really going to line up like how they're saying it is, because maybe they're right. Maybe that is what it is going to take, but they are very conveniently omitting how many games can you actually play in a day as a free-to-play player. and that information is just as important as the information about what it will take to earn these cards. Speaking about these new cards, how good are these new cards? What are they, and are they things you're actually going to want to grind for in this new mode? The 2 cards launching with this event are currently data mined as Series 4s, the Mad Thinker and Mole Man. The Mad Thinker is a 1/1 at the start of each turn after drawing. He gets +2 power if your hand is full. And Mole Man is a 3/3 with on reveal, banish the top card of your deck. Add 2 rocks to your hand, set their power to the banish card's cost. And cost being the most important word there. The first time I read this card, I thought it was the power of those cards, which could be pretty obscene with big guys like Magneto or the Infinite, but no, it's cost. So if you banish an Infinite, you're getting 2 1/6 rocks, which isn't anything to scoff at, but is obviously a lot less crazy than getting 120 rocks. So how good are these cards? Well, starting with the Mad Thinker, I think this card is kind of mediocre. It does have some potential, right? Like, if this scales up to being a 1/5 after 2 procs, that's pretty above rate for a 1-drop. My question is, how often is that going to happen? I think most decks in the game don't end up with a full hand size. Now, is it easier to do that now than it was previously? I'd say yes, mainly with the addition of Merlin. Merlin giving you a new skill every turn. That is something that definitely clogs up your hand a bit and can make it much easier to proc the Mad Thinker. So if this card released before we even had Merlin, I would think this is just like one of the worst 1-drops in the game. But post Merlin, maybe there's something to it. I'm still not overly high on this card, but if you like playing Merlin a bunch, if you like playing hand generation stuff, like maybe Victoria hand stuff, Iron Patriot stuff, things that naturally just clog up that space in your hand, this isn't the worst payoff in the world for doing that kind of strategy. So while I'm not the highest on it, I do think this is one of those cards that could have a decent performance in a handful of specific archetypes. But in general, I'd imagine he settles somewhere around like Nicholas Scratch, where kind of a mediocre card right now, it can maybe do all right in like a dedicated Agamotto deck or something. That has all that synergy. Like, this can do well in a dedicated deck with all that extra hand generation. But in general, I think it's going to be a pretty niche card because it's just going to be too hard to proc that ability outside of those specific strategies. So to me, this isn't a card I'm super excited about or think will have a massive impact on the game. I think Mole Man's a bit better just because he is a bit more straightforward to work with. And getting those 1-cost rocks are things that are generally easy to play down, and could be even easier if you want to include something like a Black Swan in your deck. But I also think Mole Man's going to be pretty niche as well. The main reason for this is as follows. This card really rewards you for having, on average, a higher cost deck. You're playing the card Mole Man, you want to have more 4, 5, or 6 cost cards in your deck than the average deck does. And there's a reason a lot of decks in this game aren't running a bunch of high cost cards, because the amount of turns you can use them is naturally more limited. I also really don't love him being in the 3 mana spot, because the handful of decks that do often like running higher cost cards often are ramp decks, using cards like Electro or Luna Snow to accelerate your mana to get those high cost cards out earlier. And you might notice both Electro and Luna Snow are 3-cost cards. So if you find yourself in the position of choosing between them and Mole Man on which to play on turn 3, I know what I'm picking every time, and it's not Mole Man. Now, we are seeing more and more cost reduction effects enter the game, like the new Mr. Fantastic this season, Surge last season. So maybe as we get a critical mass of these cost reducing effects, it'll be more viable to run decks with a bit of a higher curve. I think we're already starting to see it go a little bit in that direction right now. But I don't think we have enough of those tools to really justify Mole Man as a key build around in a deck. But I could see this being a card you keep an eye on for the future as we get more of those kinds of effects and can afford to build decks more easily in a way that benefits this card. But in general, I find both of these cards to be very niche. Another question remains of, how exactly are we going to get these cards, right? They gave us an estimated amount of games it'll take to play to get the cards. What is the method of delivery here? Are we going to get another portal pull situation? When High Voltage Overdrive was going on, a lot of the focus was understandably on Kid Omega. But I think there was a part of that that felt really bad that was entirely irrelevant to Kid Omega, that kind of was a little overlooked due to the focus on the more offensive thing. And that was Cobra and the portal pull system. Now, in the first iteration of Sanctum, the portal pull was really celebrated because it was 3 new cards and you were always getting a new card out of it. But what a lot of people disliked about the return of the portal pull was the fact that its selection had changed. Instead of there being 3 new cards to acquire through the portal, there were 2 variants and 1 new card. Now, this didn't get a ton of attention because the Kid Omega stuff was a bigger deal, and a lot of people just weren't that excited about Cobra. Much like Mole Man and the Mad Thinker, Cobra is a pretty niche card. But in general, I found it really baffling that when they did their economy rework, one of the main things they cited about the feel-bad elements of Spotlight caches was it really sucks when you want a card that is going to change how you play the game and you go to spend your resources on that card, but you ended up getting a cosmetic instead. And that might be something you just don't even end up using. I was hoping to get Cobra because I thought it could be a bit of fun to play with, but instead the portal pull gave me my 18th Storm variant. And that didn't feel very good at all. So I'm really hoping they don't go that direction again this time around. There are 2 new cards, so it wouldn't be quite as bad as Cobra in theory, but it's kind of crazy to me that they outlined this whole, hey, we learned from Spotlights, we don't want to do this again, we get it feels bad, and then they immediately just chuck that same kind of thing into a limited time mode. I don't understand why they're going to talk about trying to learn the lesson of trying to do things in a way that feels less bad, and then immediately just throw that feels bad thing in another part of the game. It just seems a bit silly. But yeah, that's pretty much all the information we have right now about the Grand Champion Arena. Economic stuff aside, I think this has potential to be one of the better modes for Marvel Snap off of the limited information we have about it right now. And I'm particularly excited about the fact that it has a much lower barrier to entry for new and returning players compared to pretty much all the other modes we've had so far, except maybe Original High Voltage. So I do want this mode to do well and find success, and it would be nice to have the conversation about a limited time game mode go in a positive direction rather than a negative one, but only time will tell how that shakes out. And I imagine a lot of that perception, at least in the online space, is going to boil down to the 2 most important things of how fun is the mode actually to play and how accessible is it really to earn these new card rewards, as well as whatever else they throw in the shop. But I'm curious to hear what you think about the Grand Arena. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Also, if you want a chance to win the recent PAX bundle, including the Miles Morales PAX variant, as well as the PAX border and this pretty fancy card back, all you need to do is include the word PAX, P-A-X, in all caps in your comment below, and I'll be drawing a winner for that at the end of the weekend. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear it, and I'll be following up on this with another video closer to release when we have more information about the Grand Arena. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.